Anybody? All right.
Should be good.
Okay. Welcome everyone to our May 2022 MSA School Board meeting, and we'll start with the workshop. We have from 5 to 6. 2 topics tonight, and it was really to use the board's time to kind of work together on a couple of board accountability items. One is the final review of the interim executive director. So how do we send Cecilia off well with whatever information we can provide so she has success moving forward? And then the second one, part B, is executive director goals for 2022-23. And we should at least get a start on that. Our executive director is starting here, I guess, July. But so whatever we can do to get started on that one. The one thing I will say is the workshop item that's listed under B should have been under A, so apologies for that. So if you didn't figure that out, we're going to start with that link if you're able to open up workshop item 06-2022. We'll start with that one and we'll go through that one, and then part B, we're actually going to use the strategic goals that we've already started the draft for. So questions on that process? Otherwise, in the past, just tried to take a step back in this case. Instead of just maybe copying our previous surveys, which we've done in the past, we have a special circumstance this year with the 1-year interim director. So I just had some offline conversations with Cecilia and asked what would be kind of a good place to start. So we started with the job description. So you'll see the job description basically has these headings, and we kind of massage the headings a little bit into questions, if you will. Some of the wording, sorry for the English majors here, some of the wording is a little funny, but that was because we tried to keep to the job descriptions as close as we could. So instead of repeating the needing improvement, proficient, or superior, that applies to all of these questions, so that those are the answers that'll be in the SurveyMonkey survey. And so the real thing I'd like to talk through today is, does it make sense to have these, headings as a survey that would go out probably either later this month or at latest sometime in June, so that we could get some feedback for Cecilia. And in particular, I think, Cecilia, you're looking for some open-ended comments.
Sure, that would be great.
So each one would have both, so you'd have a chance to kind of say, I'm doing good or needs improvement or whatever, but then some comments too that we could sum up and pass to. So ideally, that should be done before our June board meeting, so we could present that officially to you. So questions?
Under the headers, are each of the bullet points going to be separate questions, or is it one question with all of those bullet points?
Yeah, good question. So I think, Cecilia,
I think we meant one question. All those bullet points are meant to say, these are examples of what an educational leader does.
Okay.
I didn't want to make a big, long survey. It's not that big of a deal for 1 year of work.
Understandable.
Do we want it to word then examples, just so that people understand?
It does say examples.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
on this first one, it does say examples.
Oh,
but
I was
then-
looking at the second one.
Oh, maybe we
I'm
just
sorry.
need to
Examples
make
are
it
too.
consistent.
Okay. Yeah, on the third one, it says just the second one.
Yeah, there's the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, educational leader, I mean, we can, any questions, chief operating officer? That makes sense. This hopefully makes sense because it was the original kind of job description. Communicates clearly. And then,
Now, are you going to, for the, so I see like 7, 8, and 9 are more tailored towards parents. Is that going to be also for staff who work under them, or is this just going out to the community base or the parents?
that's a good question, I guess. Cecilia, what would you like? Would you like,
Well, that's a good point. I mean, 7, 8, and 9, the way they stand, this could be a parent version. We could also make something, a staff ending of 7, 8, and 9, and make the same survey with 7, 8,
Yeah,
and 9
that's what I
for
was
staff.
thinking. So you'd have both
Mhm.
of those stakeholders.
Yeah, that would work. And that's just a little feedback for me as I finish evaluating them.
So 7, 8, and 9, are they just yes, no? Or are they on a scale of
I
1 to
think
10?
it's this,
or
isn't
are
it
they
the same thing where you,
comments?
If
where you
we
have those
use-
three neat,
Yeah, I believe, sorry, I saw,
proficient, superior.
there was originally too many pages for me to manage, so I deleted all the responses out.
Okay.
And I think it was exactly the same responses.
It's the one.
I could pull up the Survey Monkey maybe, because I just copied and pasted it out of,
But I think it's the same, right? It indicates superior, indicates proficient for 2. and
Yeah.
I'm
one
sorry,
is-
I see, okay,
See that? So
Yeah.
that would be continuous throughout.
got it. With 1 at the end for any comments.
and then
that they would like
open-ended.
to share.
And I believe the Survey Monkey had comments on each one, so you could put in some, if you put, needs improvement or whatever, you could spell it out right there, what it is that needs, the reason that was scored that way. Yeah, so,
So based on my memory of the job description, I admit I didn't pull up that description and look, but it seems, it's aligned with that as far as I remember.
Yeah.
I haven't like double
A
checked it, but I
couple
feel
of
like it's.
things that were their own items that to me fell under operations or something else, I just kind of moved those as examples up into the larger heading. So a couple of the headings are gone, but they're incorporated into these.
yeah, 10 questions. I think at my first attempt at the Survey Monkey, it didn't seem that like laborious, how it gives you the score of the chances of people actually completing the survey and all these things. But now that we've added some of the examples, it may become a little bit more laborious, but if it helps more. Because at first I think I just had like the question of chief operating officer, but that may not mean anything to some parents. So it is good, I think it's a good idea to include what these things mean, to
Now,
be more clear.
for Kate too, she has both us, high school and activities. So are you gonna have anything on feedback around the activities for, I don't know if parents wanna comment or not comment,
I think it is
part of the job.
part of
Okay.
number 7, if
Okay.
if you're the parent of a kid who's in activities, but
Okay.
if we wanted to get more specific
Well, it
feedback,
was
just
just, I think
about.
always wasn't it always separated? I wanna think it was, that was like a separate thing, under the wing of high school assistant director. That's just a thought.
I can't remember. We sure could, give people a chance to weigh in on that in particular.
Well, you could say as of a high school student and or an activity student, because some of them are 612.
I
don't know
was
if
if
that
you
would make it
wanted
too-
to have information that told you, something specific about their
Oh.
feedback in that role, then you would have to separate it out,
Yeah.
which is fine. That would make it 11
Yeah.
questions, so we don't wanna go too much
No, I get it.
longer, but.
Good. Maybe Kate or Steve, sorry to put you on the spot, but
Huh?
anything that could help
You
provide
probably don't know
feedback?
what we're talking about, do you?
Yeah.
Do you
Well, I
have
think
it
I
for-
found the
Did you
the
find
link, but,
I found it, I think I found it too.
I mean, I guess for me, I think the activities and athletics are important, but I don't think that that's my key function here at the school. So, you could have that, and maybe it's sometimes one of the more visible functions, but it's not core. Being
I
the high
guess-
school principal is more important
Yeah.
to me in terms of instructional leadership and all of that. I don't know how much feedback parents would directly have on that either. I don't know.
I mean,
I think
these-
it's all encompassing in both of our jobs, right?
Yeah, these questions are kind of for you guys, so it's, you know what I mean, like,
Right.
it's a little bit to Cecilia, but it's almost more feedback for you, a chance to get, so
Sure.
if there's anything you want to tweak, just let me know, I guess, or.
Because this is about what kind of job am I doing, it just has a couple of questions that are about how are you guys in terms of meeting parent needs, and that's, because it's in my survey, it's a
Right.
reflection back on,
It is.
did I pick good people, am I leading you well, am I supervising you well, it's that kind of thing, and then it's information I can use in your evaluations. So, in that regard, I'm open to whatever.
I think that just giving the opportunity for general feedback and people had an opinion about, is this a 1, 2, 3 answer, or is this a short answer where they're
There'll be an open ending and then the same options that are listed for all the ones above. the proficient, needs improvement.
So this rating plus just a comment
Yep,
about
yep.
that.
Actually, we'll have to change those for those questions because these 1, 2, 3 refer to the executive director. So, this gets more and more complicated.
I think we used this, but I don't know.
Okay, how about I can take a look at an old survey and then just send the three of you an email, maybe if that's okay, and just say, here's the questions, how we have used them in the past. I didn't really intend on changing that section much,
Yeah.
because I think those ones were kind of copied from previous ones, but maybe I changed something like that, I don't recall.
Does that get approved tonight on
Um,
for send out? I mean, we always approve.
Yeah, normally we should approve it, I guess, I didn't add a specific item on there, but maybe
Because
we
if we
can,
want to do it before June, maybe.
I would like to email that out,
So we kind of have to know what we're doing.
yep.
I almost feel like the activities one might be a survey specifically sent toward students that participated in activities.
Well, almost
we-
everybody's in some kind of activity here.
But, so how often, but some students, if they're just in the one activity, they don't interact with you at all, so it's kind of
Well, I mean, honestly, most students in activities don't directly interact with me, they
Right.
interact with their coaches. And their advisors. And like, when they're coming directly to me, usually that means there's a problem with the activity.
Right.
You know, if things are going well with the activity, they don't call me usually. I mean, occasionally, just to say things are going well, but not a lot.
Maybe if you think the board is interested in Kate and I having feedback specific to athletics and activities, we would want to put a second question under hers.
Yeah, of course.
I think you're right, though, that most people don't think about you when they think of activities. They're thinking about the coach or they're thinking about the activity itself. Honestly, I think asking a question about activities might just be confusing. Like, okay, now I have to think about something about Dr. Hinton related to activities. What did she even do? And now I have to try to answer that question. I don't know if it would be worthwhile or not.
And well, is that in support of this particular survey? This is really for Dodd.
Right.
yeah, it'd be probably good information to get, but not for this survey.
Survey Monkey is serving me all over the place. Stop it, I just want to get to my old surveys.
We actually haven't
Um,
had a lot of surveys this year.
Yeah.
It's
We
The
haven't
last
had a
2
lot.
years, it's been a lot.
It's nice to do it as minimally as possible so that you can count on folks to respond when you really need them. Yeah.
So the only thing that's changed is the name, because it says the MSA High School, this is the old one, Assistant Director responds to my needs as a parent of a high school student. And the next one is Middle School Assistant Director responds to my needs as a parent of a middle school student. And then it's the Need Improvement Proficient Superior. And then there's any other comments. So I think this is exactly the same, except for we added the names, and then we added a time frame for Dr. Olson.
Perfect, then
So-
let's skip the athletics and
Just do it.
activities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just do it.
That's the way we had it before. Okay.
Although we could submit a survey to see if people are interested.
In answering the survey, yeah. The Survey Monkey will ask them if they would like to
And the
complete that
wise guy
survey.
next to me here.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, then, I think that's a good point, Annie. If you guys are okay, I might add something to the consent agenda maybe. Which would be that I'll push out this survey, or I have the MSA board access to the Survey Monkey one, so I'll change a couple words here and get that to the way that we agreed on here. Which was, I'm gonna add the examples, I haven't done that yet. And then the 7, 8, 9, staff ending. We don't have anything to change there, right? Are we okay with that? Okay. Let's strike that. Okay, then can we switch to B, or whatever we call the next one, which was, B. The 2022-23 Executive Director Goals. And I'll ask you to open up, it's later in the agenda, it is on is it under 9A, MSA Strategic Priority Goals? And so this is a place to start, and you know, Ms. Dodge can talk about it a little bit later in her executive director update, but if we're kind of formulating these goals for our strategic plan, it seems like this makes sense as something that we'd be handing to our new director when they come in. So I guess let's use some of this time to maybe go through. Ms. Dodge, I don't know if you do want me to go through. What's the most efficient way to?
Do you want me to share my approach here about how to help support the new executive director, how I've been listing
Yeah,
some
sure. I mean,
goals?
hopefully people got a chance to look through this. It is labeled as a draft, but if you, you can see kind of each month, it seems like there's more and more kind of progress being filled out in the details, so that's great. So yeah, why don't you take us through your
Okay.
approach and then we can go through specifics
Okay.
in each section.
So, as you can see, there are some new colors, and that should clue you in that we've been doing a little bit of work on this. It's not done, but I wanted to respond to what we talked about when we met in our closed session, and that is that I put some language in red, in red font, and those are to begin to list some overarching goals. Like if you look on page 1, you can see an overarching goal, and then some SMART goals. And the SMART goals are, you know, strategic, measurable, forget what the A is, relevant, and time-bound. So this is to get some metrics together to know what success looks like and to be able to measure progress. So the red font indicates something that's in direct response to either the investigative report findings or the student petition. And those things would be things that we would then put on the executive director's sort of work plan that he would be directly accountable for, and that's clearly showing that the board is supporting these things happening. Pages 9 and 13 are some others. You know, you usually hold an executive director accountable for an entire plan, but we wanted to call out these specific things as priorities that are related to either the findings of the investigation or the student petition, and many of them are both. So that's how this thing is laid out. I started to do some color coding, so black for the student success for all students, red for, what's next, the infrastructure, operational support, and gray for facilities and infrastructure. And I haven't finished doing the formatting all the way through. You'll still see some blue and green at the end. Then those chunks of the plan that are solid color all the way across, those are going to be the home of some kind of high-level timelines that relate to all the goals. And so then at the bottom, starting on whatever that page is, 17, I think, I started to sort of pull the things that are in red font down into a work plan for the executive director. So he'll have a roadmap, and thereby their strategic priority, you know, one of those 3 strategic priorities. Then there's a focus area. The focus areas are the columns you see in the strategic plan, and then the actual SMART goals. So I'd say we're like 85% there, 90% there here with this. But you actually will have to, you've done what you need to do because the board approves the vision, mission, and strategic priorities, and you've done that. The rest of this is administrative and staff, so it's just for your information. But obviously your input is great, especially here in a workshop setting. So I haven't quite finished going through the details of recommendations and the details of student demands. I've tried to refer back, but I haven't got that consistently done yet.
Can we ask maybe specific questions?
Yeah,
If that's okay.
absolutely.
So I'm on page 9, and I just saw like on the far left-hand side, MSA will increase the percentage of students who choose to stay from 8th to 9th grade, from 79% to 92%. And so I think that's great because it's specific and measurable, right? But like, where does the how fit in there? I mean, that's quite a tall order, I think.
Yeah, so what I imagine is this is kind of a public-facing document, and then behind the scenes, the Kate and Steve work plans and the staff work plans have the list of how.
Okay.
So that's like one layer down from this. Now, it could go on to the tail end of this for a comprehensive document. Most people will just want to see sort
Sure.
of the first few pages. But
And
we-
how was the 92 chosen?
I don't know, how did we
Okay.
choose 92%?
It was lofty, but
Okay.
still not 100%.
Okay.
Like, so, I mean, we may not hit that, but I always think if we make a goal that is moderately
Achievable.
attainable, and, you know, like, there's a good
So
chance,
it wasn't-
but it's lofty. I'd rather have it higher than
Sure. It
low,
wasn't
and then we just-
expansion related in any way? Like,
It is expansion related. So that's a funny thing about building something like this. There are usually a couple places where it might belong, and you have to make a decision where things go.
Sure.
But we could move it to expansion.
no, it's fine. I mean, because later in the docket, that is one of my questions on the future budget is just how,
So the hope is just that when we have students start in ninth grade, that they graduate from here. Now, we may have more students coming, but from the time they come, they don't leave and go to Woodbury High School or somewhere
yeah,
else.
and that's what this one's addressing, is
Yeah,
from 8th to
to
9th
stay.
grade, from middle
Yeah.
school to high school.
But then some leave throughout high
Later,
school too.
sure.
Because we have 55 seniors, but we had a lot more ninth graders
Yeah.
when these guys started.
We have one on page 10, Dan, if you scroll down. MSA will increase the number of seniors choosing to remain at MSA
Okay,
full-time
by 20%.
by
Sure.
20%.
Yeah.
So right now, our senior class, from 9th grade to 12th grade just keeps shrinking,
Yeah.
and the goal is to keep more.
No, that makes sense. Okay, good.
And so you want to increase it 20% in each of the years, so overall increase it 60%?
This is
Choosing to
social
remain
studies,
at
Matt. She
MSA
always does it
full-time by
Mhm.
20%. I know we might have to tweak the wording a little bit, because I
Yeah.
don't think that's right.
I just want to double
I
check.
couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, when I read that one, I read it as will increase the number of seniors choosing to remain at MSA full-time by 20% in 23, 24, 25. So that's totally 60%, like 20, 20, 20. Does that mean 60% increase? Because if you increase it 20 each year,
Right, but it's from, so like if there's 55 seniors, there's 15 full-time seniors, right? So next year, an increase of 20% would mean that we would have
3 more.
3 more.
Oh, so
Right.
we're just counting at the senior year,
Oh, I see.
20%, then 20%, then 20%.
Who are full-time here.
So not 60. So it's 20% with the new number.
On top of each.
So it's not 60.
no, but it's still close to it.
Well,
It's 7.
yeah, so if there was, so then over 3 years, so there's gonna be, so first there'd be 15, then 18, then what,
22,
22, 20, yeah. And then
and then
it's
26.
still gonna be less than half the seniors, because
Yeah.
then the next time would be another 5,
That's not
27.
60% of 50.
No, it's when you do it that way, it's like slightly less. But I just wanted to make sure I understood that it was each year that you had that. Okay.
20% per year.
That might be the way to do it. I was just thinking, okay, it's not my strong
Or
suit.
each.
Comparable performance, if you talk about it in business terms.
And I think to your point earlier, we're not really here to debate, if you will, like, you guys are helping us with the what. But I think it's good that we have a kind of a healthy discussion. Are we moving in the right direction? That sort of
Yes.
thing, right? So,
Absolutely.
and so increasing our senior retention, I think, our high school retention is consistent with what we'd like to do as a school, right?
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused too on this red color in here versus the rest. What is this? And then you have years up here. I think those are supposed to be together on the
Yes,
single page.
so I haven't done any formatting, but
Okay.
yes, those would be together. So you're looking at bottom of 9 and top of 10.
It's just another block of goals.
Yeah, the block, Well, the blocks of solid color, the black goes with success for all students, the red goes with facilities and infrastructure. Those are more like high-level timelines that are related to these goals. Like, here's what this looks like over the next 3-4 years. So that's what this is supposed to be. So it still needs some tweaking so that that's different than the goals, you know? It's a timeline to reflect the goal implementation,
Got it. Okay,
related back to its strategic priority.
okay, thank you.
And the red font is?
The red font are goals specific to the investigative report or the student petition or both. So those are goals that are going to be prioritized for the executive director as his roadmap. And this goes back to what we talked about when we were in our closed session about how, if the board's directing the executive director to fix these things, this is how the executive director will fix these things. It was not 100% complete, but it's getting pretty close to done here. And I think a strategic plan is always a list of things you're going to prioritize and measure. It's definitely not a list of everything we do, right?
Of course. So in the first goal, this black would be the same as the red in the
Yeah,
other goal?
yeah,
Okay.
and then when you go down, I ran out of time for formatting, so the blue is not blue and the green's not green. They're whatever they belong with. And they might get tweaked a little more. This is Kate and me and even Leela prior to just jumping in here whenever we can. Sometimes we have bounced it out to staff, not as much as we thought we would.
Maybe this is selfish, but one ask would be if we could get something that's, and it's not a nit of this, it's just, I'm trying to think of if each month we can have a tool that we can see, how are we doing? It would be nice to have a little bit more concise kind of document. I don't know how we do that, but in my mind, I'm just seeing like, here's the 3 pillars, if you will, and maybe, the administration can come back and say, we've addressed these 3 pillars in these ways this month. And that would be helpful for me. I don't know how it helps the rest of you, but I get lost when it's 15, 12, 17 pages, anything over 1, basically, I get lost. And so if we could have something summarized down so
I
that
think
it's.
the way I would put it there is, for our job being to we do the strategic priorities, we approve those, we approve the vision and mission, and it's the executive director's responsibility to say how they're gonna do it, and then tell us every month how they're doing against what they
With some
told us they were gonna
metrics,
do.
yeah.
So absolutely, metrics are gonna be a
Metrics and
critical part of
deliverables.
this, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm thinking
Not
like.
for our approval, but
No,
for our
just-
visibility.
yeah. Like we have the finance update, they've now got that kind of dashboard, with charts. So if we could say our 8th to 9th grader retention is at 80% and we're going to 92. So I'm seeing that, our throttle is not quite to where it wants to be. And so a couple of bullet points on what we're doing this month or what we have done.
And what worked and what didn't work,
Yeah,
and how we're
yeah.
changing as necessary.
I think that would be extremely helpful for all of us to just kind of keep in front of us that we're still have some more work to do here. And like Eric said, it's not us helping you figure out how to do it, but it's just an understanding of where we're at versus where we said we want to be, right?
I like it. I like the dashboard idea. I wonder if we can come up with that. That would be really good. At least a consistent tool. It's always the same.
Yeah.
You guys can expect, this is how we're gonna have this progress report each month, even if it's on some different things and some same things. Some things you might wanna hear about every month and some things might not be that sensitive.
Some of the things, you have very specific numbers that we can measure, but they're not measured every month either too, right? So I mean, but you can use it as a prompt for yourself to say, hey, we just got that updated up, put the new numbers in, right? So,
Like
okay.
the enrollment one, that
Yeah.
typically is like 1 or 2 times a year.
That's right.
One last thing that I would say is when we get to the how, my only recommendation is make sure that it's doable. I look through all of this and I think, oh my goodness, there's a lot in here, and we clearly have some priorities that we need to focus on for the year, so make sure when we get back to here's your update to the board on how we're gonna be doing this, that it's not so much that you have one. don't get
Yeah,
done.
I actually think that is the one lens we need to use on this soon, is is there anything that we should take off because it is too much? Because we do need to set ourselves up for success,
Yeah.
everybody, you know?
Yeah, I've always had SMART as reasonable. The R is reasonable. I always talk about it that way versus relevant, because we can make all these goals. We can say, yes, they're very strategic or actually specific is what I've used before, but measurable, actionable, reasonable, and time bound. Otherwise, we'll wind up, or the new executive director will fail. And the board is holding you accountable to those strategic priorities.
Reasonable might be better than relevant, for sure, because they're all relevant, but are they all reasonable? Yep. Okay.
Well, another way of looking at this is, this can't all be strategic because, right, because we're talking about priorities, well, we're basically saying everything is a priority. So at some point in time, you gotta make that judgment, right? Although I like the fact that we're capturing all these ideas somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't wanna forget
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, which is why I don't like strategic and SMART. That's why I say specific.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to have like, this isn't a strategy or like this idea, it's an actual thing that I can measure, that I'm taking action against, I can actually do it, and I can do it by this date. Like, that's a SMART goal.
And if we pick, let's say, 5 items under each category, we're up to 25
I
already.
know.
I like specific better than strategic.
So-
Yeah, and I've seen it with specific.
Yeah.
So anyway, continued review or thoughts on whether something is truly strategic, and it's okay that it falls to, we definitely need it, we're gonna work on it, but.
Yeah, I think we might switch to specific. I think that as I look at this, I've seen it both ways, and I think specific is better for this, because not all of this is strategic. All of it is specific, though, although it's in our strategic plan.
But if you have strategic SMART goals, then the S being strategic is redundant.
That's true, we don't need any more redundancy.
And you'd be better off saying and doing the things that you said you could do versus saying you can do all these things and then not doing some of the ones
Yeah.
because it wasn't reasonable. That actually forces the board to make decisions on accountability for things you said you would do that if you hadn't said it in the first place, then we wouldn't have to hold you accountable.
Right, just keep them all shut.
So, I guess how close are we to being able to provide the new executive director with, you said 85%, are we gonna push that further
Yeah,
in the next
yeah.
month? I mean,
In
how-
the next week or two.
Okay.
Question mark?
But so I think there's that, and then there's the idea of a dashboard too. And everybody will have a different style. I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but at least for me, I think it would be helpful to have a condensed version that we could talk to each month. Does that make sense for you guys too?
Yes, please.
Okay.
An executive summary.
Would it make sense to have the strategic update be a separate line item on the agenda from the regular director update, or do you think it would make more sense to have them merged?
Well, what do you guys think?
I'm just thinking like regular appearance, so I don't know if that makes more sense. Both of them always appear, so I just didn't know which do you think would make more sense?
I think we should get into the habit that it is the regular director
That's-
update, is
yeah.
that it's there. And we're not there yet, so that's why I think the question makes sense, because we're not doing that right now. But in the future, we should be, I feel, so.
I think it should be an aspiration.
Yeah.
So let's not wait for it to just suddenly happen. Let's see if we could kind of force ourselves to think that way and make it that way.
We might want to do like, that there might be an update every month, but certain months, maybe every 3 months, a specific item about a larger update maybe?
More detailed or something.
Or maybe semester, like do twice a year, do a semi-annual.
Maybe.
Or semi-annual, yeah.
I think it depends on the goals, like it depends on the smart things that have been created. Some of them might be a monthly update, others might be requiring a quarterly update.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your meeting, and this is embarrassing, especially since it's recording. I came back in here with my keys. And I
Look on the other side of the box.
Look on the other side of the box.
Right here.
I swear I walked over here like 3 times. Gosh.
George was hiding them for me for
You
fun.
edit that out later.
Threw 'em on and you let it by the clock.
Yeah, I know.
That was awesome.
Yeah, no problem. I was afraid it was something.
I guess
worse
I'm
than
thinking
we
through
could
the, if we have a forced nature to a larger update, then it forces a larger update, and if there's not a reason for a larger update, I'd rather have it be a natural cadence of the growth, like expansion. There's gonna be a couple of times where expansion is gonna be a really, really important topic, and I don't want it to have to be, we gotta wait until that big quarterly update. It would just be something that would be a part of, because it's critical and it's time bound based upon where we are.
I think you will have
There'll be
almost
plenty.
monthly
Yeah.
expansion updates.
As that as an example, but you know, I mean, there are
Yeah.
things that we wouldn't want to arbitrarily say once every 3 months we're gonna do this, because if next month there's a big update, then we
I was-
want to be able to do it then.
I was thinking of it more along the lines of part of the board is like a self-assessment about how is the board doing a good job with strategic review and stuff like that. So either twice a year or once a year, you should have, having a line item, how are we on the strategic plan? Like just as a
Mm.
check-in moment, not a specific item from the plan, but just so far, how'd we
I
do?
like that.
What if we added that to
But I
our
don't know if that
cadence
will work or
calendar?
not.
We have the one that's like, on this month we do these things. It could be a good like June thing, or in the future, I don't know. Just-
Well, and if we're talking about making the R stand for reasonable, that we need a time to check in, was the goal reasonable? We thought it was, but
Maybe it wasn't.
it wasn't, or, yeah, some kind of, maybe twice a year check-in on that part, some of those the bigger parts of it.
You know,
Yeah, like a-
Cody, I
yeah.
think,
I see what you're saying.
what you might be trying to get at is our mission and vision still serving us well? Based on what we're learning about how we're doing and everything, I mean, for the board to be thinking, is our mission and vision still serving us well? Is this plan getting us to our mission and vision? And are these 3 still our strategic priorities? That's probably the reflective questions the board wants to ask themselves.
Any other, I guess, specific questions, or otherwise, this is gonna be shared with our new executive director as part of the onboarding, when they come in, this is where we're at.
Can you remind me again what that date is? Sorry.
He is starting July 1.
Okay.
He knows a lot of people won't be around to say hello, but he's all right with that. Yeah.
Was our goal today to come up with the goals, or are we just discussing the process?
No, administration comes up with the goals and that's what I wanted to show you. Most of them are filled in here. We just have to finish. I have needed a clone in the past couple months and I don't have one.
Just one specific question. Do you know what the MCA math test achievement gap is right now?
I don't off the top of my head, but it's a good
I
question.
didn't catch the question, Sandy.
On the bottom of page 4, it says by the conclusion of 2023, the proficiency achievement gap on the MCA test for grades 6 or 8 will be no greater than 3.5%. And I'm just wondering what it is right now,
Yeah.
to see what
We'll have to get
that
it.
movement is.
That goal comes from our contract with our authorizer. And that might be the other thing this could use, is a little bit of font or color coding that indicates which goals are either World's Best Workforce or authorizer contract goals.
And we've had, just MCA stuff with COVID last year, so they're not reliable, so we
I
really,
mean, I'd kind of like to see a from and then a to.
Sure, so they're in there, yep.
this year might be better data.
Did we
And then
have
the
s-
ACT
Did we skip MCA test one
Yes.
year? Okay,
Everyone
2020.
did.
okay, the first year of COVID.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then 2021, it was optional, but like the
Sketchy.
busing
It was
wasn't,
sketchy.
the busing, like it wasn't guaranteed, and so there was some challenges.
didn't take it.
Yeah,
But it was optional for the first time.
yeah, the total number of test takers was significantly reduced, I think. If I remember correctly, I feel like the
Low
numbers
numbers
were
of
over just.
Participants.
It's a separate question, but just so you guys all know where it came from, we had the personnel committee, and I was by default on the personnel committee because I guess I got that with the chair. because that was what our policy said at one time. So that's why we were talking about these things, is because one of the things within the report was talking about, can we revamp somehow how we do the personnel committee? So this was my attempt of doing a little bit of that too, was just having the board talk about these are specific things that the personnel committee had done in the past, which was set up these surveys and push it out. So that's, I'm still on the personnel committee. You'll see that there's no meeting held most months, because this is the main thing I think that it was doing, was getting evaluations of our executive director. I believe that was the main purpose, if you will.
Right, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, and then I think the report has a lot of good observations about that.
Yeah. So we didn't specifically have a discussion about that, but at one time I had on the agenda that we were going to dissolve the personnel committee, and then I put that on pause when we got the report, and just to think about the right way to manage it. But so in the interim right now, we're kind of doing a little bit of the personnel committee's work as a board, just together. Yeah. So anything else on these two topics? So I will update, so back to A, I'll update the survey monkey, based on what we talked about, and then I'll pass it to you, Cecilia, to be sent out by the administration.
Sure.
So it comes out officially, right? The survey I will be the only one with access. I think so far I'm the only one with access to the results. But, so that's no problem. I can compile those once we.
And you can also pull in Emma or Caitlin to help you, so you don't have to do that critical work, the
Okay.
results.
Okay, yeah, that could be helpful. And then for part B, which was the future one, sounds like just a few more tweaks on this one, and then maybe as time permits, a dashboard-ish kind of example.
We'll get it done, right?
That could be,
I'm already thinking about how that could work.
It can be a work in progress. It doesn't need to be by June, I think, but I think that would be a nice thing to get started with our new executive director.
Yeah,
To say
it'll
this
be
is
good
the
for him to
expectation.
see what he's being held accountable for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean but like there's different formats. One could be a long document. People maybe eat that up, and then for me, I would like a little bit different format. But that's just me. So
No, I think for the website and for most people, we'll have something kind of high level, executive summary of this, And we can also get into the how.
maybe not everyone's so interested in the how.
Right,
but-
it'll just be if you want the whole thing, here's the whole thing,
Yeah, yeah, good. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we finished the workshop a little bit early. I can give you guys some time back. I think we're not on till 6:15, and I don't think we can start early if we posted a 6:15 start. So might have to spend some time outside. Apologize for that.
Oh,
no.
it's okay.
Anyone else? Otherwise, can we adjourn
Can
the
I do a
workshop?
really quick
Yeah.
announcement?
Yeah, sure.
Steve Heyman, who some of you haven't met yet, was selected as our new assistant director for middle school. We just hired him Friday night, so it was too late to get in the packet, so that'll have to be a June approval, but our committee, we interviewed 5 great candidates, and overwhelmingly Steve was the choice, and he's been a great addition. We're really happy to have him.
Great.
Awesome.
And I
Thanks.
saw from your announcement that that students were included in the interview process too. I think that's excellent.
Yeah, we had a student and a parent, and Randy and Kate and I, and Lucy Rubin's our teacher, so full committee,
Great.
5 interviews.
Great.
Stayed till 6:30 on Friday night.
It's great news for next year. So
Yeah.
continuity is always good. Yes. Thank you. Anything else? Any other? Okay, then now let's say 5:45-ish. We adjourn the workshop. Thank you. Somebody know how to turn the volume down, or? let me know when you're ready. Okay. Pretty close to 6:15. This is our May 2022 MSA board meeting, so thanks everyone for coming, and thank you for those of you watching remotely. So I am going to, is Sydney here? Sydney is not here, then it falls to you, Maggie,
Okay.
to read the mission and vision for us, please.
I'm a former student, should I do it?
I don't care. If you like, go ahead.
I'm a former student, so I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Our vision to be an innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence for all students that creates well-rounded, lifelong learners and global citizens. And our mission, we provide accelerated and inclusive curricula and instruction in all subjects with an emphasis on math and science.
Cody? So roll call members, so Danny Ellingson here, Maggie Burgraff,
Here?
Cody Schneef,
Here.
Jennifer Bartle,
Here.
Eric Fair,
Here.
Jeff Eng,
Here.
Michelle Krakowski,
Here.
Annie Cardenas,
Here.
Sandy Overson.
Here.
Great, and Sydney is not here yet. Otherwise, all members are accounted for. So item 4, approval of agenda, conflict of interest. So anyone have any changes we need to make for the agenda tonight? Any conflicts of interest you want to talk about?
You were gonna add the approval of the survey?
So consent, or no?
Yeah, we can. So on the consent agenda, one of the workshop items we talked about was the current executive director survey. So we discussed that at the workshop item, and then as well as the plan for the future directors. And so I would say I'm okay to add that based on how we discussed at the workshop, that we would do the survey. Yeah, on the consent agenda item, I guess that would be HI, item I. Anyone else, anything else? Okay. Then I will make a motion to approve the agenda as amended with the additional item to the consent agenda. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Eric seconds. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, agenda passes 9-0. Now we are up to the MSA monthly celebration. So this month we get to celebrate our substitute teachers, and I understand we have 2 here tonight. I have a statement here, and our MSA substitute teachers are great. So they are dedicated, and they do what they do, and they do a great job for us here at MSA and our students. And most other schools have had a hard time, getting and keeping subs during the pandemic, but we have not. And that's really helped us to be able to stay open, through the pandemic, where other schools have had to shift to distance learning. So we really appreciate all the work that you guys do to help keep our school running and keep our kids educated. So I'd like to bring forward, I have a list of names here of all the subs, but I know 2 are here tonight. So Sue Schneck?
Shank.
Schenk, sorry.
That's all right, it's a hard
And if you could come through, we'd like to shake your hands, if you're comfortable.
The Grand March.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Cody, I had you as a student years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I have stories.
And we have Bruce Whalen.
He's really a science guy at heart.
But he gets snatched up by Spanish
I
all the
know.
time.
He always talks.
I do like
He
science.
always talks about science to me.
I do like.
This is your test to see if you can trip over all the
Yeah, we got
cords.
a lot of coaches. Sorry, hey,
Thank you. So did you teach Cody before too?
I don't think so.
So I have some more names, and then if it's okay, we'd like a photo with the group. And so I'm just going to thank Noelle Halen, Courtney Greger, Deb Alwyn, Michelle Cruz, Jennifer Parker, Amelia Efoyam, Ollie Haaland, Robin Starch, Bob Slater, and Jackie Smitley. So thank you very much, everyone. So maybe watch the chorus, but if you could come in here, we'll try to get a group photo for prosperity.
You are tall, yes. Ah, no, I'm gonna get back here by Annie.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, Annie, you better push it.
She's like my husband, she doesn't say, so you never know.
You're just like,
So
are we
they're-
done?
Oh, you did?
I got him.
Good. I should have grabbed the. Anyone else open forum? I have. Grab two. So now we'll move to item 6, which is open forum. I would ask you to keep it to about 5 minutes per person, and I'll call your name and then and mention the topic, and then you have approximately 5 minutes to come up here. And up here is more convenient because we have a microphone for those listening at home. So the first one I have is Michelle, and I have the topic of school's future.
So, hi. I'm on the PTO, and my son also did an Eagle project this year. He worked on the MSA Peace Garden. So we're invested in the school, but I have had some growing concerns, and I feel like I really need to share them with you guys. And I see the direction that the school is going, and I have a lot of concerns. And I just wanted to share my personal story about what I've seen going on at the school and just what's happened recently with our family. So my name is Michelle Klontz, and I have 3 sons. 2 are still at MSA. My oldest son, Ryan, graduated in June of 2020. About 5 years ago, when Ryan started at MSA in 9th grade, I was really impressed with the school. It wasn't just the superior academics that set it apart, but it was the amazing community. Kids were so friendly and welcoming. They really made an effort to include my son, who was brand new to the school. Unfortunately, the culture of the school has undergone a drastic change since that time. My youngest son is currently in 9th grade, and the welcoming atmosphere is pretty much gone. Let me give you an example. Since the beginning of the semester, I've been hearing about a small group of students in my son's study hall who have felt free to denigrate many groups of people. They have loudly proclaimed the stupidity of Christians, straight people, white people, and other groups. They have essentially been spewing hate all semester long. The other kids have essentially stayed silent because none of them wished to cause a scene, but it was difficult and uncomfortable for lots of people. My son was not the only one who endured their hostility, yet felt powerless to do anything about it. On April 28th, things came to a breaking point while the study hall monitor was in the bathroom. One of the kids decided to tease members of the group, asking for advice on how to come out. My son decided to record the conversation. Students in a variety of scenarios have taken video of what's occurring in their classrooms, often as a means of protecting oneself and others. Excuse me, I lost my place. What is certain that the situation up to that point was untenable. It was unfair to have one small group of kids hold the entire classroom hostage with their hateful rhetoric and toxic conversations. It caused a lot of bad feelings. Many of the other students in the class would confirm those sentiments. Afterward, my son was spoken to by Ms. Dodge and Mr. Heyman. He was told that what he did was considered sexual harassment. I could not believe my ears. It was explained to me that under Title IV, any undesirable behavior having to do with sexual identity can now be deemed sexual harassment. Merriam-Webster states, sexual harassment is uninvited and unwelcome verbal or physical behavior of a sexual nature, especially by a person in authority toward a subordinate, such as an employee or student. I'm sorry, but parents should be outraged. According to the article referenced below, I have it referenced here, I don't know how to share it with you guys, but it's a Fox News article, middle schoolers, sexual harassment, gender pronouns. A Wisconsin middle school is accusing children of sexual harassment for using the wrong gender pronouns. And I have a question for you all. Is this the kind of school that MSA aspires to be? You may think that this gender identity agenda is promoting tolerance, inclusion, and equity, but I have seen what it actually does. It is breeding intolerance and causing young people to become hateful and cruel. MSA has simply empowered and emboldened this protected class to target their peers with whom they may disagree. It makes people like my son, straight, white, and Christian, fair game because of his more conservative values. My son feels like he's a target, and I don't disagree based on some of the incidents he's shared with me. Back in March, he and a group of friends had a little going-away party for a friend on the picnic table outside of Building D. Thank you. It was a diverse group of students. There were black kids, white kids, Asian kids. They were just having a good time with their friend who was moving away. One of their female classmates, who happened to be nearby, managed to find something disparaging to say. She grumbled aloud that there were too many homophobes. The culture continues to change at MSA, and not for the better. By continuing to empower these protected classes, you continue to marginalize other groups. My son has a great group of friends here, else we would likely transfer to a private school. MSA used to be different. It used to be a place that championed academics and goodwill within the community. It can be that way again. Rather than lifting up certain groups within the community, we can lift up everyone. Each student has value. Each is an important part of the equation. It's time to return to the principles that ensures everyone has the potential to succeed. The decision to do so is in the hands of the board and in the hands of MSA leadership. We are counting on you to act in the best interests of the school and all of its students, all students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate sharing, stories like this, just so we can hear and get better. The next one we have up here is Mary Yap, meeting accessibility.
Good afternoon. For the last 2 years, actually about 26 months, many parents and community members have watched these meetings online with our agendas and supporting documents right in front of us. Now the meetings are live streamed and we're encouraged to attend in person. Last month I attended in person for the first time and a packet was not available. And I was at a definite disadvantage. I think I made the comment to some of you, I'd be better off sitting at home because I'd feel more involved. This week, today, I decided I would print my own packet, and I did. Imagine what it's like to sit here in a meeting if I didn't have a printer. Thank goodness I have one, but not every parent has one at home. Not every parent has the ability to print a color copy. So when you reference documents and we're sitting here, we have no idea what you're talking about. When you reference documents that are color-coded in red and green, such as they were in the workshop, we have no clue. It's all black and white to me. So my question for you is, as it stands tonight, this is an accessibility issue. If a parent does not have a printer or does not have a color printer, we are at a great disadvantage when we come to these meetings. So the question becomes, do you really want us here? Because right now, my second meeting here in 26 months, it's feeling like the answer is no. We have a smart board. We have technology. We are listed as the Math and Science Academy. This is my 10th year of being at this school. And I will say it's been frustrating because I feel like we have been shut out as parents. I would ask, use the smart board. PTO and the parents through the Dragon Dinner have funded these. Use them. Use the technology we've gifted you with so that we can be included. I hope it improves in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got quite a few in the audience here tonight, so last call. I had just the two listed, but we good? Thanks for the comments and feedback. So I have after open forum, item 7 is approval of minutes. So this is our April 18th board draft minutes. Anyone have any comments, questions, errors?
Didn't have any initially.
Sorry?
I was saying I didn't have any initially, but I read it a few days ago, so. But I didn't see any of it.
It looked good to me. Good job, Jennifer.
Take that as a win.
Yeah. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda? The minutes from April?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Cody, second?
Maggie? Or Annie, doesn't matter. You pick.
I heard Maggie's first, sorry. So Maggie seconds. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So they pass 9-0. I think still no student update this month. So next up I have is the executive director's report.
And I can be pretty quick because we talked about a chunk of it during the workshop, but first I want to share some good news. We had a student, Brady Crisco, who got a perfect score on his ACT test, which is pretty impressive. There are, of course, lots of good news kinds of things happening in the spring. Scholarships, awards, honors. We don't always know about them unless parents or students tell us, so please, if your child is notified of something, an award, a scholarship, an honor, let us know so we can share the good news. I also want to let you know that we have a really great draft of our FY23 budget, which is the 22-23 school year. And we will have you approve that in June, but just to kind of give you a heads up on what's coming, we have 2.5 FTEs of new teachers. That is to cover our new 9th graders. It is to help keep our Spanish classes reasonable size, so it's 0.5 Spanish if we can find one. And those 2.0 FTE teachers will be able to help provide some academic interventions. So really being able to schedule people with some time to help students. The budget is also going to allow us to continue the assistant principal position, and that was formerly occupied by Mr. Heyman. So we'll be able to post that and have that, and that position is really needed to keep the initiatives moving forward that we've been talking about in the strategic plan and the professional development moving forward, and especially in light of things that we're finding that we need to do. And as we move into high gear with expansion, that's going to take a lot of one of the administrators' time. So with those additions, the budget that we have drafted right now still has about a $100,000 surplus, so it's looking very healthy. I just wanted to kind of give you that preemptive discussion about the draft budget. And then finally, you'll see that we have an item that is the strategic plan. As we know, the board approved a new mission and vision and strategic priorities in December or January. And then we've been fleshing out what would be sort of the focus areas and SMART goals, measurable, specific goals that will carry us through into a new building, in the next 3 years, chunks of work to accomplish. And that will also be a roadmap for the new executive director to follow as he starts in July. So that's still drafting, it's coming together, but you've got a draft in your packet that is just about ready to go. So unless anybody has any questions, that's all I really need to share.
Questions? Okay, thank you, Cecilia. So next up is myself with the chair's report. So we did have a workshop right before this one, as we normally do. Tonight's topic was on making sure Cecilia is set up for a kind of a survey that could feed into you as your future endeavors come through. So we will vote, I guess, on the consent agenda to approve that survey, which is based on your job description. And then the survey should plan to come out either, end of May or early June, so that we can have some feedback for you before you're done. It's coming up fast. Then the next topic, I'd like to give an update, on behalf of the board on the external investigation. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Dan Ellingson. For those of you watching at home, I'm the chair of the MSA's board. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to read a statement. This statement will also be published later in the evening on our website, as well as a video link. So you'll have the document if that's easier for you to read, or you can listen to the statement as well. So allow me to read, apologies, but I want to make sure I got it right here. So just over a year ago, a newspaper article and a student petition brought forward claims that some of our Math and Science Academy students may have been subject to discrimination by a few members of our staff. This was not the first time that the board was made aware of these issues. But it did prompt the board to begin a formal investigation and led to an additional action to ensure that the school is welcoming to all students. I want you to know that we've received the investigators' report. The report found 3 general areas of concern around how students with disabilities are treated, how students of color are treated, and some policies and practices of the board of directors. First, the report states that the board of directors has allowed improper practices, including, and I do apologize, this is a little technical, but it's, quote, teachers who refuse to provide accommodations in a student's IEP or 504 plan, the use of the grading handbook and matrix, the student handbook, teacher discretion to exclude students who meet the prerequisites to take advanced placement or other elective classes, and the activities participation criteria that results in the exclusion of students in protected classes. Second, the report identified that faculty at MSA are not culturally competent. This lack of competency is tolerated by fellow teachers and is not important to the board. It also states that the board does not devote resources, time, or sufficient attention to racial concerns. Third, the report found that the current board governance model is not working well. There were examples where teacher board members historically were allowed to advocate for teacher interests that conflicted with MSA policies. This led to mishandling of complaints brought forward by staff and students, as well as other conflicts of interest. As chair of the board of directors of the Math and Science Academy, I want to be very clear. The MSA board and administration are committed to providing a high-quality, rigorous education to all students. We take these charges very seriously. Discrimination at Math and Science Academy is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. We have already taken steps to address some of these issues. The administration began a process to address issues brought forward by students that began last spring and continues today. Some of the actions taken include: the board has updated the school's mission and vision to be more inclusive and is in the process of updating our policies. Administration has drafted new procedures to clarify teachers' responsibilities, to increase support for students who struggle and for students with disabilities. The administration has also taken steps to begin building staff awareness of disparities and potentially discriminating practices, and is increasing staff competency in culturally responsive teaching methods. More action is in progress. The investigation report contains a number of recommendations for additional action. Our work to address these issues is ongoing, and we will continue to provide updates on our progress at the board meetings, both tonight and as well as through other communication. We are committed to an open and transparent process as we address these issues. I truly believe that MSA is an excellent school. We are recognized nationally as a top-performing school, including the top-ranked school here in Minnesota. The actions of a few individuals do not take away from the achievements of MSA's students and staff. We are taking the steps needed to make ourselves a more welcoming place and a better governed organization. And we will provide an even better education option for students and for their families. If you have any questions, I would ask that you please contact our Executive Director, Ms. Dodge. And as I mentioned, we will be putting out these words as well as this statement on our website tonight for those of you unable to attend or watch. So, and not on script, but we do have a separate section which we're entitling Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, which we'll talk about later in the agenda. That'll be a standing agenda item from now on out until we have these things sorted out. So. I can't take specific questions on it right now, but wanted to make sure that that statement was public on behalf of the school board. So. All right. Thank you. Next up is item 11, which is board committees, subcommittees. So usual practice, we go through and ask if there are any questions. So I'm just going to start with annual fund. Anything for Annie? Communication advisory, anything?
We met after the due date for the minutes.
So next month?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Expansion, we did sneak in some updates. I would just, quick editorial if I could. You can see in there a timeline where we're trying to get an RFP out relatively soon, and that timeline with that RFP kicked out should, if everything works, it's a very, very tight timeline, bring back our top choice for the board's approval on the RFP. So this will be the company that we want to help, the builder's representative, if you will, that will help us. So nothing more than just we've had a discussion, we've made a plan, and expansion is on a very tight schedule, but we're still trying to keep to it. Questions on that? Except for some typos, I understand.
Yeah.
So I will make those. Thank you. No personnel meeting. This we did in a workshop. Anything for policy?
Well, we have 2 policies, but they're later under discussion, so I thought I would just hold off on those. If that's okay?
Yep. Academics. Any questions for Michelle on meeting minutes? Then we go to finance. If you're okay to take that group of them, I did have one question which was on C, Cody, and that was, it looked like on page 5, if I bring this up. Just the general comment that our cash flow was going down. It's not opening.
Which page?
Page 5 on the item C.
So that is.
Our cash balances?
Let me see. Sorry, it took me a second to authenticate myself.
Are you
Yes,
top of
cash
the
balances. Yep, cash balances.
Yeah, so one thing, we don't really have like a danger line. We probably should add that so we know when we're actually in trouble. Our cash doesn't always come in at the same rate that we spend it, so it does tend to kind of do this fluctuation. We get some big infusions of cash a couple times throughout the year. So it would probably be a good thing, I would say, to add a kind of that danger line so we know when we're getting close to
That's the bond danger line, the 60 days of cash.
That's one of the danger, yeah, that'd probably be a good metric to use. We do have that somewhere else, but I can certainly.
It just looked like going back to December, it's slowly going down. If you kept that trend going.
Yeah, we get a kind of a big infusion and then
we eat away at it.
Okay. Yeah.
If I could add a quick comment, the federal government changed their numbering system for entities, and we got caught up in a technical issue, and that didn't allow our federal funds to flow until that got fixed. And it's a fluky thing at the government level, federal government level, so that is contributing to that. So now the federal money faucet is back on again for us. So it wasn't anything we did wrong, it was their system.
Okay. Other questions? Cody on A, B, C?
Then we have a couple things to approve.
Wait, sorry, I have one more note. Okay. And maybe the enrollment, we might have talked about this before. I saw it was 507 goes to 497, so it's like 10 less students. Does that sound about right? I didn't put a page number on that one. Sorry, with it.
There's
like
a graph on
above.
page 6.
Maybe page 5 was it?
on the same document?
Yeah, it looks like
Yes,
page 5,
yeah.
that probably was why I didn't put the page number. So from November to December,
Yeah,
and then we've
so,
held steady kind of,
so the gray,
gray triangles.
the gray triangles, are kind of what we were budgeting, and then the other line is what we actually had. So we did it, in the meantime, when we did a revised budget halfway through the year, correcting, so making it more accurate towards that number. And I think now we're even was it one ADM above?
Yep, we're up, above it.
Okay, so this goes back to when we revised the budget?
Right,
I
which
got you. Okay.
we'll be approving another revision of that budget in a few minutes, so.
Okay. Other questions? We can go down to the review 990.
Well, so,
Approved.
I motion to approve the financials, for April.
That's the item C?
After item C was approval of
Oh,
financials.
I'm sorry, yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry, never mind.
Second, anyone?
I'll second it. It's the
Cindy
same.
seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Financials approved, 9-0. Thank you.
And then the next thing we have is, we're just presenting the 990, which is the tax form we have to submit to the government. We have one for the building company and MSA. Currently, we have approved, the finance committee approved it. It was due Friday?
Yeah, it was due on the 15th.
It was, yeah.
So had to be Friday.
It was, yeah, on Friday, but that is, this is us publishing the document for everyone to see.
And it looked like it was 2020, is that right?
Yes, so because of, our fiscal year ends halfway through the year,
Okay.
and then,
And then it took it.
yeah, it takes a while.
Okay.
It gets confusing. I work in tax and it confuses me still too, so.
We don't have to approve it, it's just more of a notice to us?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
we're putting a notice out.
Okay.
And then the last thing I have under finances is approve of our revised budget. We did our last kind of revision for the remainder of this fiscal year.
And if I could say why we need to do that, so our working budget is healthy, and it's been looking healthier and healthier as the year has gone on. So the expected deficit has been shrinking, from when I asked to sort of dip into the fund balance. And so our bondholders like to see this healthier budget, and that's why we should approve this working budget, even though we're so close to the end of the school year.
So I did have we don't have any of the expansion, if you will, baked into this one, right? When I look at the student
This is
numbers.
the flat out.
The same building?
Yep, because it's
Assumption.
just for
What
this
we're-
current school year. So the budget we're approving.
It's not the budget projections, it's
Right,
just
it's
this
not the
budget?
projections, it's
Okay.
just up to the end of this
Okay.
fiscal year.
Gotcha.
Even though you can see that expansion stuff in there later.
Any other questions?
So I'll motion to approve the revised 2021, 2022 budget. Did I get those numbers right?
21, 22, yeah?
Yeah, that's what's up on there.
Yeah.
21.
This is
Want a
Sandy, I'll
second?
second it.
Sandy, did you say?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
Sandy
second.
seconded. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, great. Passes 9-0. So now we are on to consent agenda, and recall I did add an item I, which was the survey based on our workshop. So, guess I can make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
This is Maggie, I will second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, consent agenda items passed. Thanks for filling those all in there. Next up is our new section, diversity, equity, inclusion. This, I had a note for. Here it is. So we have, just for the public's knowledge and all those in attendance, thanks so much for the attendance here tonight. It's great to see students, staffs, and parents, and I see our authorizer is here as well, Liz. Thank you so much for coming, so appreciate that. Ms. Wynn, I should refer to you as. Okay. Apologies. So now we have a new section which we're going to use as a board to help us track our progress on this very important section. And so we're calling it diversity, equity, inclusion. That is some buzzwords, but it's very specific things that it means to us. We're not going to use it as a buzzword phrase and sentence. So we did have a closed session where the board went through the external report that we had. We did that last month, and we came up with some actions that we feel we can do now. There's some things that it's going to take us some time, and please, be patient with us as we work through that. And there are other things that we're going to strive for as our goals. So I have a list here of things that I'd like to share with you that we're working on right now, and Jennifer will capture them in the notes for those as you get a chance to look at the board packet. But first off, we have directed the administration to take action and address the student petition and report back. So for those of you that may recall, we had a student petition. I'll editorialize for a minute here. We had a student petition come in last year. It came in around the same time that we had this external investigation report come. So just in 100% open and honest trend, being open and honest, we kind of combined those two things together to see if these were two of the same things we're talking about from different sides, students and parents or students and teachers. And now we feel we have the external report back from our external investigator. So the pieces that were not addressed by that report, the administration has been asked to address in feedback as soon as possible. So look, some of those things have already been taken care of, but look forward to more feedback as soon as possible. So administration will report back to the board when we have more answers on that one. We also asked the administration to discuss allegations with each current employee and take whatever employment action and report back to the board. So we cannot in this forum talk about specifics due to data privacy of anyone who may or may not have been named in the report, but the administration has been asked, because it is their role, to address these concerns that were brought up in the investigation report on a case-by-case basis. And that should be handled outside. And if anything needs to come back to the board, then it can come back to the board and we'll take it from there. So. We have just a blanket statement, which we're calling addressing issues of potential discrimination. And this is where I ask for patience because, yes, of course, we don't accept discrimination at our school, and I think we can all agree to that. But addressing, this here, which is, issues of potential discrimination, is we're trying to address it with our mission and vision. We're going to go through our policies. We're going to do our best we can. But if there are instances where we're not being held to the level that we need to be as a school, then please bring that back to us, and we're gonna address those. So it's not going to be swept under the rug. It's not going to be ignored. Every student has a right to feel welcome here in the school, as well as every staff, a teacher, and everyone here. So next item I have is listed as D, review and revise the various handbooks to reflect the correct mission. So this is an opportunity highlighted in the investigative report. Some of our handbooks are not either consistent, or we have some opportunities to better align with our mission and vision of being more inclusive. So we're going to go through with that kind of lens each and every one of our policies and our handbooks, and we're going to take a look and see where we need to make. It's not going to be easy. If you've taken a look at our policies, we've got quite a few policies. We typically can handle 2 or 3 a night maybe, so it's going to take us some time, but we are going to try to prioritize, and we have already had some closed sessions where we've tried to prioritize our board governance model. How do we govern? How do we govern ethically? And we started to look at some of the policies that we interact with the administration, and we're going to just keep digging down until we get after each and every one of the policies that we need to get cleaned up to be more inclusive. So. Governance model and training. So you heard me mention the report a number of times in the statement that we shared on behalf of the board. In this report, it says the board is not governing itself properly. And so we're gonna set up a board governance committee is probably the best way to handle this, where the board meetings is maybe not the most appropriate format except for specific questions. So we're gonna have a committee go out and say, what is it that we need? Do we need more training? Do we need, what is it that we need as a board? How do we get better? How do we ourselves get better at governing ourselves? So, look forward to that being set up in the near future. And then how will the board measure these things? Because it's easy for me to read off a list, right? But how are we going to measure it? So what Ms. Daj had mentioned is in our strategic plan, For the future incoming director as well as right now, we have bolded in red, the current format is in red, the items that reflect on the student petition as well as our external investigation, the items that are of top priority. So these are ones that we're putting SMART goals, so specific and measurable goals against each one of those items and criteria where we feel we're not meeting the mark. And we're gonna have updates monthly come back, so they're gonna be specific goals that we're gonna have, what we talked about anyways, a dashboard, some sort of dashboard that the board can hold our administration accountable and say, how are we doing in these 3 areas? And under there will be the specific ones related to diversity, equity, inclusion as well. So those are the specific follow-ups that we're able to share right now. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and the promise that we'll have to the community is that as and when we can share anything, we will, and we would ask that the same please come back. If you see opportunities where things are still not where they need to be, feed them back to, probably makes the most sense to our administration, but if it makes sense, you send them to me as well on behalf of the board. So, questions? Any other comments from board members? As mentioned, this will be a permanent standing agenda item for the time being. We'll have the diversity, equity, inclusion.
And then just roughly for the community, about when would they be able to expect to see the finalized strategic plan? So then they would see those priorities, what you're referencing as in red and those things. When would they expect to be able to have public access to the strategic plan in its approved state? Just, I know it's not about when.
I mean, I would say 2-ish weeks.
Just a process question, it's a good one. When we share the board packet on the website, if they were to click a link, do they not have access?
They can see that now, they have it now in their.
In the draft form?
Yep.
So it's public now, and every month, we've asked that every month's previous ones still are public. Is that still the case? Are they able to pull up the old ones or no?
Yes, there's an archive, if you go into the board of directors spot on our website, and then you can go into the past agendas,
Okay.
they're in there. But, so anyone looking at it now, tonight's agenda on our website, you go to the executive director's report, and it says strategic priorities or something like that, and that's our draft strategic plan right there.
Yeah. Okay, good. Other questions on section 13? So because tonight we had this update, I was a little bit cautious to put too much out before we had a chance to talk about it, but in the future, I would expect that these sections would be populated so the public would be able to follow along more cleanly with us. But as I mentioned, Jennifer as a secretary, we'll put these in the notes for them. So. Okay, then we're up to our discussion decision section. You guys doing okay? Are we okay to keep moving through? Yeah. So we guess this one will be about a 40-minute section. Let's see how we do. So first on up is establish a board of director election subcommittee. And this one is coming about because unfortunately we're losing Ms. Cardenas. Will be retiring at the end of the year, and we still have a year left on the school board. So there's a policy on how we replace, but I would like to ask that we have a discussion about what's the best way to go about setting up, having either another election or some names proposed to the board. It's up to the board to decide how we want to fill it, but I'll just open it up to discussion, I guess.
So the last time we did the election, we decided we were going to review the policy and rewrite the policy.
Yeah.
So shouldn't that come first before we?
I'm hoping that that'll be in the
Decided to do
same, so
another
thanks for
election.
bringing it up, because it was on the future items to review it, and I pulled it into this A, so thanks for reminding me. So yes, whatever the findings was, Sandy helped us lead the last election committee, I'm hoping that will be implemented in there. But we have a specific ask, which is we will have a vacancy in July, right? July onwards, so you would go through the June one, and then July onwards, we have one more year left about. So I think 2 things we're asking for is, can somebody help us revise or revisit our policy? We had a couple opportunities in the policy to make it more fair and clear for everyone running. And then the specific request of filling another board seat. So.
Right, and the bylaws say the board should form a committee to fill the vacancy. So.
Can we update the work on the policy this month and then form a committee next month or do we have to have a 2-month approval on the policy changes? Michelle, do you know?
Well, the changes are not non-substantive, like there's process changes, so best practice would not be to have it as a consent agenda item. So you would have a discussion and then, edit and review and then approval at a second meeting.
So July.
You guys know better than me, but when it's filling a vacancy, it says the board can approve so it's not a
That's what I
straight
thought,
election.
yeah.
So I think,
There's two things.
Yeah,
There is
right.
two things. And so I think in the past, when we've had a vacancy, we did have, I think it might have even been a teacher one, I can't recall, where we came back and nominated someone and the board got a chance to talk, does that make sense, and vote, right? So I think the board still approves it.
I think it was a parent. I think it was
It was actually, I believe, it was Jeff's seat when he was a parent member, because his kid graduated.
Right.
Or his.
And
Yep.
Rob came in.
And then, and it was, someone collected nominations and a statement, and then we voted just between the board members.
But it still says that the chair will appoint a committee for the purpose of soliciting volunteers
Right.
for the appointment, so this does still need to happen.
And so this one would be for a teacher spot, if we follow the bylaws as written right now. So another idea would be, I don't know if we work with administration somehow to get some more teacher names, potential candidates, something that we could, I don't know.
In the past, for teacher spots, that's usually how we would find out, right? And then we would say, is anybody interested? And then they'd let the board members know that they were, right?
I think so.
And then sometimes it's just one person is
Maybe
interested and
sometimes
sometimes there's
one.
more.
If
So
it's one, it's easy.
if it's one, it's easy, but if there's more,
Yeah. So two things, I guess. The one is, can somebody able to help us with, the election, if we do it this way, without an election, then the policy doesn't need to be updated as aggressively as if we just do this one. If we need another election, it would be nice to have some of these recommendations incorporated before we do that election.
Are we talking about the policy or the bylaws?
I was talking about the election policy. No?
Okay, I'm just curious, because it's in the bylaws that we talk about the filled election of the board from its own membership with the call of the chair within 30 days of the occurrence, so that would be by August 1st, the position have to be filled.
is that just for, if you lose a,
Oh, it's
leadership
officer
role,
positions,
officer,
never
yeah.
mind, okay.
Yeah.
Because we can technically operate,
Yeah.
sure, we can operate with 8 or 7.
Yep.
But there is a minimum, is it 5? I forget, 5 is the
I think
minimum.
that's what it said.
So is anyone able to help, I guess, with the election? Doesn't have to be done by June, but the election policy revision. Maggie, you're
I
okay?
can.
I'll work with it.
Okay, and you helped a little bit? No, you couldn't help last.
I didn't hop on this one because I was running, but I helped last year,
Okay.
so. Yeah, we'll work on that.
Anyone else want to help? We have the document already captured from the feedback from last week.
Because I was on the last one.
Jennifer?
Oh, Yeah,
Okay,
that'd be
great.
good.
And then, I don't know if you want to work on the policy at the same time, but I'd be happy to.
Sorry, that's what I was asking. So
Yeah.
you're helping with, the three of you would
The
help with the policy?
Yeah, the policy.
And I guess Michelle, because she's part of the policy committee. You look like I'm putting you on the spot because I
No,
can't see
it's
all of
perfectly
your
fine.
face, all of your expression.
No, not at all.
I have a question, just I don't know, when it says the board should appoint a committee, it doesn't say a committee of board members or not. I just don't know if you can have an administrator on the committee, which I'll be helping no matter what, but.
Yep, I think we should. So I think, yeah, good point. I think everybody's welcome.
It just says a committee.
I
It
think
doesn't
all
specify
committees are all
membership.
welcome to the public as well.
Justin was on the last committee,
Yep.
so.
And actually, that's a fair point. So we have a committee and a subcommittee. Are we calling this a committee, which would be open posting, 3 days notice?
I think last time there was problems with that, so it should probably be a committee.
Okay,
And
agreed.
follow those
Yeah,
rules.
let's do that. Yeah, that's what I would recommend, is that we keep it open. The subcommittees, for those listening, subcommittees, we try to follow the open meeting laws, but we're not required. At least that's our understanding by law. So we do post when we can, but it's not required for the 3. But this one will be making maybe some decisions. In any event, I think an election should be public. So, yeah.
So,
Okay, so I'm hearing 4 people that are going to help with the policy. That's separate than the nomination, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Two-
so we're
two
right now
separate
just
things.
talking about getting the policy updated.
Yes.
That's the mission of this
Yeah.
committee.
Oh,
No, the mission of the committee is the appointment of the member.
Oh, that's not what I
Oh,
thought.
No,
I thought we
no,
were
we're
working on the
talking
policy.
about working on the policy.
Okay, I need to keep everything straight, because there's both things have been discussed.
Yep,
So
I'm
I
trying to
just want to make
understand too.
sure.
I was
am-
under
So
the impression we
policy-
were working on the
A
policy.
committee for the election
The next
policy update.
So you want to have a policy committee meeting?
Yes.
Is that the best way to do it? Or should we
That's
just
what
bring
I'm
the-
asking, is
the
just which
election-
is it? I just want to know what my
Well, we
responsibility
can,
is.
the three of us can work on it and then bring it to the policy committee.
That's perfectly fine too. I just want to make sure that it is workable and that we're within our,
So your policy committees, are those open? I have to check. Is that the posted 3 days early? open
the
meeting
policy
law?
committee meetings, we post our meetings.
That's a
But that was,
subcommittee.
that one is like, I post them, and I try to make sure that they're posted on the site and everything like that. And if we have, when we have minutes and things, I add them in our stuff. But I don't think we're a formal, because we just make recommendations, but we're not functioning as a decision-making part of the
Yeah.
board.
And I would think we would, because we're then acting as a recommendation to the policy committee, which is then recommending to
To the board.
the board as a whole.
But if we're a committee, that's different than.
We
a
should just all meet together. We should
Okay.
just have a policy meeting. Let's just all meet together. I feel like we're adding a step that doesn't need to be added. Okay.
Okay, so
there
Unless
is-
you
do you have
object, I
a
mean-
policy committee meeting scheduled already?
We schedule them as needed, so,
Okay.
because everybody's schedules are so different, so I can set up a doodle or something like that, but just, right, maybe I'm wrong, it's fine, we can do whatever, I
No, if-
feel like
That
we might
sounds
be adding a
good,
step
and
that
then
is
bring it to the
needed.
board for
Bring it to the
Yeah.
board, which is posted
Right.
3 days in advance, at least 3 days.
Okay.
I
Because
think
we have
that
another,
works.
You're on that committee, right, the policy committee?
Yep.
yeah, and also another one of our teachers is on there as well, so.
The
I
only
can-
thing we might miss, sorry, Michelle, is if others want to contribute, how can they contribute? If somebody wants some idea.
Once
that-
I know a date that we're gonna meet,
Post
I
it.
can post it on the site and just
Okay.
am I allowed on a calendar event on the site to contact me with ID? I don't know.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's good, but what I've done is I've said, contact me if you want the link, because I do a lot of virtual meetings for expansion. And I find better participation from parents that way, so I just say, please, because I don't want Zoom bombing or whatever, so I'm like, just contact me, and
Yes.
then I will pass out the link.
And ours have usually been in person just because we're working with the documents and so
Sure.
we mark them up together usually.
Okay.
But, so usually
Maybe-
ours are in person.
And maybe print out the minutes for the election committee,
Okay.
because we documented everything.
I think last month we captured it. So then the second topic, is that any other discussion on that? The second topic is we need a list of names, or at least we need one name.
so that's what I thought we were talking about.
Okay.
Because the bylaws say the board forms a committee to solicit volunteers to fill this spot. And so I thought we were forming that committee, but now we can. And that's just to kind of beat the bushes. It's a little
Yeah.
bit, it's worded less formally than putting on an election, you know? That's what the bylaws say. What was that?
So,
Right?
in your, is it a committee that holds a meeting for people who might be
No, it's committee in
interested?
a.
Right, it's like a broad sense,
informal
like,
sense of the word.
hey, have you ever thought
Yeah,
about?
Right, it's
Okay.
not a formal board committee.
All right.
I think our language in the bylaws
Okay.
is from before we gave that
The definition.
definition.
Well, just an idea that, is it possible, I mean, we can help or I can help wherever it makes sense, if it makes sense to talk to your staff, but otherwise I'm kind of thinking,
Well, in the past, it was either announced at a staff meeting or an all-staff email would go out.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking Maggie and I could just do it.
yeah, and I'm okay with that. I would rather people volunteer who kind of want to help
Yeah.
than
And I can do that,
tell
sure.
someone, so. but See if we get any traction with that, and then come back with, I don't know if that's June or July, July would be the
It'd be the July.
latest.
Okay.
But if you have a name before that, I mean, we can also
Right,
discuss.
but I mean, if
talk
we
to them.
know, and they know that that's when it would begin.
But I guess what I'm offering is if they are new, never served on a board, they can talk to me, or they can talk to other teacher board members or whatever about time commitments or what what we're working on, that sort of thing, if that helps them with their decisions.
It's kind of nice because it's 1 year,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, yeah.
People, if you want to get your toes dirt,
Tried out.
in the water with it, yeah.
Yep.
So would they write a statement and give it to us in
If there's more than
July?
one,
If there's
maybe.
more than one, well, I think even if
You
there,
could always ask
if
for a
you have to,
statement.
yeah,
You
you
should always
should.
ask for a
You
statement.
should.
Okay.
Okay, does that cover our needs for the elections? And we have some folks helping to update our policy, so the next election will be ready. And we have a potential plan for a backfill of Annie.
In terms of timing, that's gonna happen very quickly, because I assume once teachers, or some teachers
Yeah.
leave
Yeah,
after
I think we need to
June
catch 'em.
3rd, that would be it, so.
Catch them over here.
Yes.
Definitely, and I can definitely try my best, although I will say the next like couple of weeks, with some of my activities, events are sort of packed for me. So it may be maybe Cecilia and Tammy and not I. But I can still do the scheduling part of it and things like that, but if the schedule works out where y'all can meet and I've got to do some student council stuff, then my apologies, but there's still plenty of people, so.
You're talking about the policy.
Yeah, the policy meeting, yeah, policy meeting.
The only key is the 20th is our June meeting, so we have to have it published 3 days prior for the meeting.
Well,
For us to-
now with, the policy doesn't really need to be finished until, the next time we would hold an election would be starting in January.
So we wouldn't be using this policy to govern this upcoming election?
It is two separate processes. The process we're talking about for July is in our bylaws. That's for replacing an already seated member. The election policy we're talking about is when a seat is expiring and we're replacing from the,
We don't have anything in our bylaws around early
It's under vacancies.
vacancies. Vacancies in officer positions, so that's what I was going to in the bylaws.
Later on it goes, it's
I
not
think
an
it's, is
officer.
it 6? It's either 4 or 6, I can't remember which Roman it was. I just closed it.
So I guess we've decided that the
think
policy
it's
change, albeit it could be nice to use for this next
Vacancies and
election,
membership.
or choice,
Inclusive of
frankly.
regular
We don't need
election.
to do that.
Shall be filled by majority vote from the
It'd
board.
be
So
a tight
if there
squeeze.
are more than one, if there's more than one teacher who's interested, the board votes.
or whichever category, in this case,
Board
teacher.
chooses.
Well, in this instance, the chair shall appoint a committee for purposes of soliciting volunteers to be considered for appointment by the board to the vacant seat or seats. So that's what I was saying earlier, is it's a
Right,
chair
that's what we
appointment
just
to the
talked
committee. Okay, sorry.
I guess I'm okay with Maggie and Cecilia soliciting these teacher names and coming back to the board if there's more than one, so.
So we have two discussions happening right now. One is the policy, and we
That's
got
why I
that
was
one
trying to be
completed.
very.
Now we have the board chair assigning a committee for filling the vacancy for this board seat.
Yep.
That's Maggie and me.
And it's open to everyone, but Maggie and Cecilia are responsible for getting the names. Okay?
Getting the word out and
Yeah,
collecting.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, thanks for, sorry, that probably should have been two separate
Yeah.
subjects. But when I saw that opportunity to squeeze up that future item, of election policy, I just kind of roped it in there. So I could make our list smaller of future items. But, are we okay to move to B, which is policy 616? Yes, okay.
Sorry. I accidentally closed my agenda. Okay. So for policy 616, if you look, this is one that we've been working on, especially as we adjusted 603. And academics started looking at it and had some suggestions and ideas that we started talking about with regard to the language of it. And then looking at it too, one of the things that is important is that when this one was set up, it was set up by a policy that was meant for large school systems where they had multiple buildings and a superintendent and a lot of tiers of different groups. And so one of the challenges with this one is to determine which groups are responsible for what. And so it's gonna need another revision, probably in the spring of next year, to make it more complete. It's kind of a Band-Aid fix for right now, because what we really need to do is pull out separately, what are the elements of this that are for like, the world's best workforce stuff, that committee, that task force and their data and what it is that their role is. And then what is it that academics committee is responsible for? Because they're both represented here and they're both doing different things, but because they're both in here, it just can be very confusing. So for right now, we worked on trying to get the language a bit more specific about who does what, but it's gonna need another revision. And, you know, side by side with the existing like state statute for the world's best workforce, and now just to separate it, because right now, since we're a single school, we have overlaps of tasks. And some of them need to be separated to be more effective as we grow. And Cecilia can speak to that as well.
Should we have a world's best workforce policy?
Well, that's a good question. There is a very clear statute around world's best workforce. I'll add to what Michelle was saying, that the model policy that this is modeled after is supposed to be requiring the school district, which we are, to have an advisory group. This is about having a big advisory group that's made up of parents, teachers, students. Ours has been sort of retrofitted to apply to the academics committee, which works and doesn't work, and then where's administration in this? You know, and this is where it first came up when we were looking at 603 and this policy 616, and they were confusing and somewhat contradictory on the role of administration. So even though this one sort of said administration is part of it, it was confusing, and also it's still confusing, but it's a little better. So it does clarify some roles. We think the world's best workforce advisory group should be a subset of this larger advisory group that this policy is really meant to address. We're at a funny place still, MSA, in clarifying the role, what's the role of administration, what's the role of the board, and I think as part of the hard work that the school is taking on moving forward, some of it comes back to recommendations in the investigation. This will get clearer, where I think in next year, a year from now, you could be looking at adopting 616 more like the model policy with a true advisory group made up of parents and teachers and students. And it should be advisory to the administration. So I don't think we have 100% agreement here that this group is advisory to the administration, because there's also then, how does it shake out, like what Michelle is saying, the academics committee is really made up of department chairs. So what we're doing now is making a job description for department chairs, because there hasn't been one. And then this group, the teachers and everybody, administration and the board, can spend a year defining the role of the department chairs when they get together, which I think is a totally separate thing and has totally separate purposes from the things in this policy. So we just didn't think we could get there now, but this needs some cleanup anyway, and so we made it clear who does what, and we made it clear that administration is part of the academics committee. That's as far as we could get with it, and we feel like it's better than it was. It's a little more consistent with 603, and it's a Band-Aid.
So do we make a decision on this tonight, or is it still, you're still working?
Is this
on
a
it?
first reading?
Yeah.
So then you'd make a decision on June. We would like to propose that you pass this in June as something to limp us along
So it comes
while
up again.
there's some more
Yes. And then
consensus building.
when our new permanent director comes in, and again, it's really important for the original statute and this policy, and for us just to, for the policy committee with the admin to work together to figure out exactly what do we want to call each role, what is each role's description. So for now, this clarifies, but it doesn't really establish as specific of roles as we're gonna need.
So I have a question on just clarifying administration in here and administration versus, like, how would you define it in this? And one of my questions in section C here, it says MSA's administration is responsible for implementation, but then 1, 2, and 3 only reference the executive director. So what's the role of administration versus the executive director in this policy?
I mean, that's a good point. I guess I was seeing it as a little bit interchangeable because the executive director can delegate to the principals, you know? But it is a good point that maybe you would want it to be consistent either.
I'm just thinking about it from accountability and how we, the board, would look at who are we looking at or what group are we looking at for adherence to this policy? Is it the executive director or is it administration or is it both, depending upon the situation?
And if you look at the website, under administration, there's even more people.
Because the office, all the offices
It's like-
are listed.
Well, that's why I'm asking, like,
I have
who
the
is in
same
the
question.
administration bucket?
How many people are administration?
So I think it should either maybe say administrators or executive director then. And if it's executive director, that's fine, because the executive director can still delegate, so we could.
You could put a line in there that says definition, administration defined as at the beginning, and then.
Yep, or just make
You
it
could,
executive
or
director.
just make it executive director.
And then
I
I
think
think
Dr.
executive
Hinton
director or designee.
Could do that.
So the executive director could appoint a principal or an assistant director or someone to be the representative, but it still falls under the executive director in terms of what the board is gonna hold accountable.
And we have that phrasing in other policies, so it'd be consistent with some of our others too.
That'd be good.
There's a separate executive director, section 2E, right?
Yep, and so because it started out with a different purpose, it's all kind of
All
acrobatics.
motivation,
in here.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of how I was reading it as I went through,
And
trying to
it's much
parse out.
better than it was.
Okay. The chart, is that supposed, for me, it
Take it
didn't
out.
come in?
Yeah, no, that one's gonna be cut, that's why, like it, yeah.
Okay, good.
So our recommendation is just to delete the graphic.
Sure.
But
I
if
don't
you
think it
want
says
to keep
anything.
the flow chart in there, we can try to adapt it, but it's not really gonna
Mine
work
doesn't
super
say
well.
anything. Is yours
No,
say-
I-
Well, it's
that's
not-
the thing,
It's not worth it.
Yeah,
That
it-
graphic is horrible, because it's nothing.
yes, it's empty. No, it had like.
Well, it did have.
Before it did have stuff, okay, okay.
But
It's a coloring
nothing. Well, that was the thing, since we were recommending
Fill in the blank.
deleting it, we didn't update it because we just recommend deleting the flow
That's
chart.
fine.
Because it didn't seem to work for the needs.
So are we, so we're
It's
just
just a
reading it
read.
tonight, no
Yep.
decision, just discuss, okay. Any other discussion? Good discussion. And thanks for the, kind of the future thinking, I guess, right? So we'll just, I guess the board members that are still gonna hang around for next year, we have to remember that 616 is gonna need a revamp.
Yes, and maybe you need a committee to recruit policy committee members, because that's where we've really been short.
Yeah,
And it may be a good idea, and I don't want to give you all extra work, but prior to, and I can add it to the next board packet stuff as well, but prior to it, seeing the original statute that it's based on, you'll see like why it looks so disjointed. Yeah, so it may be good to look at that, so you can see the attempt, but it just wasn't as successful.
So are you gonna replace administration with executive director?
Executive director or designee.
Everywhere
Yep.
in this whole policy?
Yep, Control F.
Is that how you do that? I forgot that.
Unless you're on the Mac,
Yeah, what's it on Mac?
I know.
have both.
They have it on Mac
I
too.
have both.
not control, but not control.
Apple.
You can set up a
Apple,
control,
Apple.
you can set up a control key.
Oh, I gotta do that.
I set up a control key on my Mac.
all right, can we move to 806?
Definitely.
So 806 is crisis management policy, I guess a first read discussed tonight.
And I'll take that one, because I gathered the committee of crisis management folks and building safety folks, and we picked through this. It's been a while since it's been looked at, and we did the replace executive director with executive director. I see we have this administration problem in here, we'll fix that. But mostly what I did was took out things that are procedures and left the policy language, which is MSA will have a procedure on such and such. So everywhere that statute requires us to have a procedure on something, we left sort of the policy language, which mostly comes straight from statute, about what our procedure accomplishes, keeping our children safe, keeping our staff safe in different kinds of crises. And so anything in here that was more procedural, I took out because we have the procedures in a separate place. So it was just a cleanup and made it a lot shorter. And I think that's it. And then this summer, the project will be to update those procedures that are working pretty well for us. And we do practice different kinds of drills, lockdowns, fire drills, weather, all of that. So those are all the procedures, and they didn't need to be in the policy. It's still pretty long because there are a lot of statutes.
So then for section 4, where it has the sample procedures included in this policy, are you going to have those as links, or are you going to have a different language to switch it out?
Oh, thank you. Where is that?
I'm on, it's at the bottom
Page
of
10, I
page
think.
10.
The links for what now?
It-
Are you
it
talking
has-
about fire hazardous
Yeah, no,
waste?
it specifies sample procedures included in this policy.
Oh, I see.
And so,
Yeah.
from that
I should
titling,
have done strike through on this.
There's
I don't
also
think we should
miscellaneous
have sample
procedures, section 5V, I guess. On, what page is this?
So you think we should get rid of all
Yeah,
of,
actually, that's supposed to be out.
The miscellaneous stuff is supposed to be on?
No,
All
sample
of-
procedures.
all of 4?
Oh,
But what about 5, which is miscellaneous
Yes,
procedures,
yes,
like
yes.
chemical
Okay, I got
accidents, visitors, students?
That, because some of that relates back to state and federal law and OSHA, I think we have to
Yeah, right.
keep
Right.
that, and that's just saying we need to have procedures to deal with chemical accidents. We need to have procedures to deal with visitors, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay,
So I think any of those that are required by statute, we'll keep the language that says that we have procedures for doing
I
that, but we
gotcha.
don't have to list the procedures,
Okay.
is the point. But yeah, I missed that. 4.
It seems to me in section 2A that any plans that the board needed to review and approve has been removed.
Well, the board needs to review and approve this policy, which says what we need to have procedures for. But they're all, you
Well,
know.
I'm just thinking, like, with COVID,
Mhm.
we wrote a new policy
Mm-hmm.
and we approved it as a board. Are you taking that out, or
I mean, COVID's not addressed in this
it was
policy,
listed,
is it?
it was listed in 4?
W of 4 was highly contagious, serious
Right.
illness or pandemic flu.
So I think as a board, we need to be approving any of those kinds of policy.
But COVID, that was like a,
Is that
But
its
that
own
could happen
policy?
again. I
Was it
mean,
its
you
own
never know
policy, or
what
was
the
it part of
that
the
one,
emergency is
state
it
gonna
was
be.
specifically, that was the specifically the face covering policy, and that one will expire. That one expires on its own.
Was that separate from this policy?
Yes,
Was its own
that was a
standalone?
special policy, and so those have a specific duration, and if they're non-renewed, they expire.
it was emergency something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an
related.
emergency policy.
Yep,
But we approved it as a board.
but it's because it's a policy, not a procedure.
But this references highly contagious, serious illness or pandemic flu, crisis, what is it called? Crisis procedures.
Crisis management plans?
I just want to make sure that as a board, we are the ones who vote on what we do. Are we shutting the school down? We need to vote.
Gotcha, understand.
Yeah, I think that the crisis management plans that they're talking about infectious disease or anything are more like,
Emergencies.
yes, for sure, emergencies, not a pandemic. So I know it's.
But it
makes
used
us
to be
think,
in
yeah,
the
for sure.
policy, but taking it out of the policy, that's what I'm trying to get out. Why is it removed that you're taking out for board review and approval?
I guess it's a good question, Jennifer. I was really thinking that I would take out anything that was a procedure, because the board doesn't vote on procedures, they just vote on policies. So, you know, if there was going to be another pandemic, or if this one was gonna continue and go sideways on us, we would maybe need another.
Can I ask a procedural question then? If that were to happen, would there be
Or anything else?
well,
I mean,
yeah,
we
a
never
pandemic
know.
or something that would require board or a policy update to account for that? Would that be something the policy committee would get together? They would talk about changes to the policy. That would come to the board and be approved by the board, and then it could be acted upon.
Yeah, but if
Would
it's
that
an
be the way?
emergency, we don't have 2 to 4 months to do.
I think emergency, there's a statute for emergencies, so there's
Right.
actual.
Isn't the one we
there's
did
some state statute
different?
for that.
Yeah, so when we had that one, although to be fair, I will tell you, that is the only emergency policy that I've ever been a part of. So I have not extensive knowledge on this, but yes, in this case, but we did still need 2 meetings. Because we had a template, and then we had markups and feedback, and then we double checked in, because the CDC guidance had shifted. So like there was just a couple moving parts, but it did still take 2.
A lot of these things we're talking about, I think we need the administration to be able to react quickly, right? We
Right.
cannot be posting and 3 days later have a discussion about what we should do. So
Right,
I
like-
think
But
these
why didn't
We call
procedures,
an emergency meeting and we could vote
we
on
can,
it.
yeah, and a pandemic was sad, but we had time because it
Yeah,
didn't just
well,
hit
I'm
us in
just
one day
saying,
like some
you just
instances
never
can.
know what's gonna come up.
It's true.
And I think the board should be
But I
the
think
ones
that's,
deciding.
what we're talking about right now is the board is responsible for policies and budget, right? And then the administration is responsible for the procedures. So I think what Eric is saying is if we need to make a change to a policy, we're not relinquishing that responsibility, we still own that. And if there's a policy that needs changing, it will be changed by the board. We have that right to change it, whatever the school needs to be able to manage through whatever that situation is. So we're not giving that up, even if it does say taking out the, to the board for review and approval in this particular instance, but I don't feel like we're giving up the rights of a board. That's what we do.
Yeah, I think some of the, like an example of a procedure is our fire drill, where building B goes behind A, building A goes behind B. Tornado drill, building C, certain classrooms go to the basement, certain classrooms go to the study hall or the workroom. We can't have the board like managing at that level, that's procedure. So we need to have administration be able to do that, not the board, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the other part is, you know, in the original template, it did still have that, and that the policies are an addendum, not that, or that the procedures are an addendum, just I think so that everybody publicly can see the details of what our procedures are. So, I think both arguments both points have a lot of validity to them.
If it calls it a crisis management policy, then does that mean that it's a board
It
approved?
is support for any policy.
This
Because-
policy
I mean,
is
'cause
board
the-
approved,
what I
yes.
see marked out is and then crossed out is upon approval by the board, such, and then back to crisis management plans will be an addendum to the crisis management policy. But that's
Right.
more of like, it says MSA administration versus board, but it's relating to a policy. So I don't know where the procedure piece of it is.
The plan and the
policy.
procedure are the same. So if you think about your classroom and you have that colorful thing hanging on your wall, that's the crisis management plan. That's what I'm referring to as procedures. Those are the things that you'll follow in a crisis. And they're things that we need to have pretty flexible as administration.
So this will be reviewed annually, as all
Yes,
of our
it's annual
policies are
review,
by
yeah.
the board. I don't know, Jennifer, if that helps.
I don't know.
I
I
have
need to think about it, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, this is our first reading, right?
And I have
Yeah.
That's the point of this reading, is to think about it.
I do have one other question, and I'm really, really sad that I need to ask this question out loud, but I do. If we have publicly available all of our safety procedures, including lockdowns, could somebody not then use those to try to get around them? I really wish that wasn't the case, but it
I was
has been in other schools.
actually thinking something similar.
It has been in other, like in other instances where somebody pulled a fire alarm to try to get people to leave the room, and then, so I need to throw it out there as a safety
Well,
issue.
there's good reason to take them out of here, because this is on the
So-
website.
I know
There are
that's the
good
thing,
reasons
I
to take them
understand
out.
both,
But-
both sets of logic.
Could there be something in the policy that states like a written request, procedures will be made available through the executive director? So there's like an outlet for those that want to understand what those policies are, becomes kind of a formal request process through administration.
I think so.
Well, those procedures.
There must be,
Actually
there must be a
like that.
best practice for all schools. We can't be the only one going through this.
Right.
Share,
and
we want to
that's-
share the information, but then, you know, you share too much, right, sometimes, and
Yeah.
you put us at a disadvantage. It's the same for every school, I would think.
And the other thing, if I
Please go ahead.
can speak, because I kind of have been running our fire drills and tornado stuff. The kids are well aware of all the procedures that we do. And so we train them. They know what to do, the teachers know what to do. So even though, even if we were to take it off the website, the kids would still know this and be aware of these procedures. So that's a risk that every school runs. At least the kids know what to do, and that's the best thing we can do, is be as proactive as possible and have them be prepared.
Can you just, I don't know, take a look at it and just see what's the best practice for schools? Because, this is a totally separate subject, it's not on the agenda tonight, but it's a fair question.
Yeah.
What's a good way to keep our students safe? And also provide the information that we need to as required, so.
And I can double check, but I believe in I believe in here, it did state that you needed to keep a copy of this and the procedures physically in each office.
Yep,
So
which
that may
is
be.
still in here, because that's part of statute. So
Yeah,
that
and
is
so
still in
that may be a way to ensure public access, but without potentially endangering the students.
Yeah, yeah, good question. So with these changes, it'll come back on the consent agenda item, unless, Jennifer, you have any follow-up? maybe?
It can always move from consent to
can
discussion.
always
Yeah, we
move
can
it
pull it up, we
from
can pull it up.
That is always okay.
Next.
Yep, yep. I'm not trying to strong arm you. Are we, any further discussion on this one? Then I'd like to move to future items, which I just give myself a few minutes. So the expansion decision is coming up, as I mentioned really quickly. If everything works out well, which we're pushing hard, in the June meeting, we'll have somebody here to talk about why they're the right choice for us as our building representative, and why they're gonna be able to take us in the September, October timing to answer a number of our bigger questions that we feel we need an expert to help us with. So that's the expansion decision. Here it's listed as second quarter, we've made that decision, so now our next one will probably be third, fourth quarter. The finalized details of the strategic plan, I think we're really close. I heard 85%, something like that, so we're getting much closer. Final review of the interim executive director, we talked about the workshop. That one is gonna be done in the next month or so. We'll have survey results back, and thanks for the offer to help with the administration. Let me see how much work it is. Once the survey's out, it's pretty easy to compile a report, but we'll see. 2022-23 executive director goals are very much tied to this strategic plan, in that we're gonna have prioritized areas within the strategic plan. And then we still need some work on the staff handbook. We were hoping to get that tonight, and we didn't have everything ready that we needed to just, I believe it's being reviewed by our HR partner.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we're waiting for that. So plus minus, meetings plus minus, what worked well, what didn't tonight?
I've noticed a lot more attendance lately, so we probably do need to start using the smart board and broadcasting. And I wonder if Justin can set it up where our Zoom link is half the whiteboard and half.
Like an inset or something.
Right, so everyone following along, when we're pointing to something, they can see exactly what thing we're.
I wouldn't mind helping, but I found if I'm running and also doing this, then I lose one of them. So it could be an opportunity where if we figure out the technological solution, maybe one of you guys maybe can help run the show so that you can follow along at home with the documents. I think that's good. And plus, even if you had the board packet, it's difficult for us to follow along sometimes. So I think it's a good idea to use this if we can. Other plus minuses?
It's 7:38. That's a plus.
That's a plus, yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful night.
So for the agenda, the link for the draft, is it the same as the link for the final, or?
Yeah, so that's good.
We published the
thing.
link, because
Yeah,
you
so
sent the
thanks.
follow-up email saying,
Yeah.
oh, there's some mistakes, here's the new link, or you said, here's the link.
So I think what I can do better is, I think on Wednesdays is what I'm asking for before, so we give the administration a few days to polish up the board packet. email that out by Friday. I think that cadence works pretty good. I get a little bit of flack for excuses on Thursdays and Fridays, and we can accommodate a few, but I didn't want a bad habit of everyone throwing everything on Friday to the admin, so I'm trying to hold the line there and be the bad guy. But one thing I think I can still do better on is I gave access to the administration to manage that document. What I didn't do, the draft one, I didn't close the draft one down. So we did get some comments on Thursday, and somebody had to tell me, because in my mind, I'm done, it's off my plate and it's onto someone else's. And there were some valid questions that came up a day after when thought I was done. So two things there. One is I'm gonna do a better job of like locking down or closing down or deleting or whatever we gotta do. So I don't have that file anymore. We can't comment on old news. So I think that's probably the best practice there. The other one is we did make changes. As the board chair, I'm responsible for the agenda. I work together with administration. Sometimes I do have to make changes without consulting folks. I'm not trying to do that and be sneaky. I'm not holding items on and trying to pull them off last minute. But I will admit, I'm waiting for comments, and then probably Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going through that document and saying, where do the pieces and parts make sense? And sometimes I move things. So like, I know tonight we moved some things into the consent agenda because it seemed like it made more sense there for us to vote as a consent item where we wouldn't have discussion. But I can do better there. I appreciate
I can do
this.
better. I commented late.
Yeah, fine. But I left the ability to comment, so I'll take ownership of that one. So I think it's a good question on the draft. There should not be a draft after Wednesday. It should be finalized. And then Cecilia has done a good job. If she needs to make a tweak or change, she'll usually send me an email and say, I need to move this or that. Can I kind of get your approval? And I think you haven't done that otherwise. Because before, and I'm not saying it was Cecilia, but sometimes I don't like being surprised when the agenda is different than what we had agreed to on Wednesday. Just like you don't like it, if it was on one Monday and it changed to Wednesday again and now it's different. So I think we can all do better. I'm trying to keep it as an open process where everyone gets a chance to comment and provide inputs. But with 9 people, we may have 10 different opinions, and I have to make a call on how we're going to flow that
So when
through.
you lock down the agenda, you send a new link.
That's what I will do. I
Okay.
did not do that last time.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant. And
So what-
also,
one thing,
one
Jeff-
thing to help you too is if there is kind of like a last minute change, that you could actually comment and say why you made the change. In a broad fashion, depending on if
Yeah.
it's possible, that might help because, that's why I sent the question. It's like, oh, I noticed there was a change.
Yeah.
If everyone asks you the same question, then you'd have to do whatever, so.
So one thing I haven't done is if I move the agenda to the May folder example this month, then the authorizations and everything changes. Like I've kept it as comment only because we tried it in the past where everyone had access to the agenda and I had no idea what we're talking about. So I had to change that one. So moving it to May was a little scary to me as well because now everyone would have write and read access and I don't know what we're handing over to the administration. So we'll have to figure out. What I did this month was once I saw the comments, I locked it down, said no more comments anymore. Now we cannot comment. If you have a comment, direct it to me.
Right.
And then the admin is the only one that has editing access now.
There were 3 of them out on the MSA page.
3
Like-
agendas?
Yeah.
Were they all different?
2 were different and 1 was,
There were like
In May?
3 or 4 links on the.
In the May folder?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, it's just sitting out there
On the website?
Yeah. There were like 3 different links. It repeated 3 times, and I didn't click on each one, but.
Oh, I'll have to check it.
Yeah.
So
Two
still
were
some,
There
very
was
new. 2 were the same and 1 was different.
let's take some feedback for next month and see if we
Yeah,
can't do
Just
better.
to check.
Yep. Good.
So I just really want
Yeah.
a quick comment on the time piece. While I think ending at 7:45 is a plus, I also think there's a little bit of a minus there because we've never ever had a board meeting that I've been involved in that's gone this short. So either there was nothing that was confrontational or worth discussing tonight, or we didn't speak up as much as maybe we would have in past times. And maybe it's because of the number of people or the subjects tonight, but I actually view it as both. Good, we all get out early, great, we enjoy some sunshine, but minus, as a board, our goal is still to represent the school, the community, the parents, the students, and everybody the same way every month. And if we didn't say something that we would have said another time, then let's make sure we don't do that next time.
I will say, when we're looking through the agenda, I am mindful of time. If I see 10 hours of topics, then I will kick something to the next month.
Yeah.
I could see that it was gonna be a shorter one, because we only had 40 minutes of discussion and decision.
Yeah.
but last month it was different, right? I mean, I think we spent quite a while in the healthcare discussion, which I think I had 10 minutes for, so.
It's
so-
just better, I'd rather we do it right than do it fast, so.
Agreed.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying we didn't tonight, it just was one of those.
Yeah.
We got a lot done with the consent agenda, that
We
helps
did,
too.
absolutely.
I will say as a plus, Cecilia did check in and they were able, just like looping up our discussion, they were able, third option.
Third up, oh, yeah.
The insurance
yeah,
up.
that's
So
right,
they
on
were,
healthcare.
the insurance
Yeah.
company,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
did.
Yep.
So Cecilia asked and they checked in.
Never hurts to ask, right?
They complied.
Amazing.
So, just as a closed loop on that.
So,
The next meeting, the June meeting, is that when we self-nominate for certain, like the
For-
secretary, chair, that, so we need those forms sent beforehand,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
For people
to
to
fill out.
self-nominate,
Oh, yeah.
because we
That's right.
vote
It's June,
on
the
it.
new
Yeah,
board
it means
meeting?
the new everything.
Jen,
Oops,
don't
missed
think you
that.
can't be secretary again. Don't.
that sounds like a policy,
My secretary,
election
hi.
policy thing.
I don't blame. You're ready, huh?
You do such a good job.
Uh-oh.
That's pretty easy though, ask, isn't it? I mean, if we, because that's just within us, if you
Yeah,
want
it's
to run
just a
for a
form that
position,
you-
there's a document
But
which
for the
Isn't there a
new
form?
members too,
Right, they can also
to swear in.
self-nominate.
yeah, but they can self-nominate as well,
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
so they'll need that too.
So let me take that one, then I think I can. So, because it's just a document saying what the different roles are.
Yep, and
And
then
then
the
we
process
need-
for sending
Put
it
it
up.
in the board packet probably before whatever date, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good catch. Okay, anything else we missed? And we're gonna say 7:45, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Sun's still shining.
Second.
Jeff, second. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff seconded.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All right, motion adjourned, 7:45. Thank you.
All right, get it.
Dan, I had one other question.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Dan, I had one more question.
Annie, will you unplug my laptop?
Yeah,
could do
yeah,
it
we're gonna miss
myself.
you, Michelle. I don't know how we're gonna do it. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad you have some ownership there. So thanks for your help.
Did I get yours too? Yep.
Yeah.
Do we know how the tables go?
So.
I don't know how the tables go.
We just put like. And, well, I know, do you remember the table configuration?
Okay.
So let's see, he changed it.
Are we still broadcasting?
Oh, yeah, probably.
So I think it's just two together.
Like,